Welcome back to Marbella now. My name is Nicole King, and it's a pleasure to be recording once again from the Hotel Guadalpine Banús, which is actually right next to Puerto Banús. We're so used to hearing this Banús word in Marbella, and you end up in God knows where. But we are in the Hotel Guadalpine Banús right here in Puerto Banús. They have a fabulous car park service, so it's really nice to have valet parking. For Marbella, the big P is very important. Parking, parking, and parking. We have a great lineup of guests for you this week. I can't wait to get started and for you to meet them, because they're all just so cool and so different. Hey, hey. A big welcome back to Charo, and instead of letting her just talk to you on her own, I wanted to be part of this because I saw you were in Madrid at the National EB conference day for professionals. First I was scared because you were outside the hospital, and what are you doing in hospital in Madrid? And it was for obviously the charity. Tell us more.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me. So yesterday we went to Madrid with the specialists, nurses, our social workers, psychologists.
Your whole team? Your whole active team, with the patients?
The A team, we would say. So the nurses are...
Medical team.
Yes, thank you. But I had the privilege, I had the honor to be there for the first time. As you know, I am working within the charity for the last 2 years, but this was my first EB Congress in La Paz. So Hospital La Paz is organizing this in cooperation with the charity for the professionals. And it was very important and very interesting. We had 200 participants. And so nurses of the hospital, doctors, specialists in general, people also, for example, came from Mallorca who took care of a family and still taking care of a child with EB privately. So they just wanted to know, okay, what can I do? How can we learn from each other? Which materials? So there were also some laboratories in the Congress room, and they were showing their new bondages, creams, and materials which we can use in our charity.
It's so much more than we think. It's a very visual affliction, but also those wounds go inside, so it must affect so much more than even meets the eye.
Yeah, and not only the skin. We're talking always a lot about the skin, and of course EB is the skin disease, but it affects inside, for example, the mouth, so the teeth. The children with EB are but they're suffering a lot because they can't really open their mouth like you and me. So sometimes they need to train before they go to a dentist because they can't. Eating for them, first of all, is not a thing like for pleasure. It's a thing they need to do, and it's painful. So that's already a challenge. But going to a dentist, for example, and cleaning the teeth it's painful.
It's so much that we don't know about the disease, but those who suffer from it, it's not just the horrendous physical afflictions. Psychologically, for the sufferer and the family, the parents, one can only begin to imagine the sense of futility not to be able to help more.
Yeah.
You were saying teeth, eyes, it's the internal organs. There's so much more, which is why awareness is so important to get the professionals on. Big step forward with the Hospital La Paz now, because it's the recognition, the validity that gives it, doesn't it?
Yeah, and acknowledgement also, and you can see that social workers are working together, like we try to do in Marbella / Better Together. You can see that is improving, and that is having a great achievement to the families, because they feel like if they have 1 or 2 people dedicated to their child, gives them peace, and the relationship and the bonding, because it's a process of 3 or 4 hours of taking care of the treatment. Besides the fact it's painful, it takes a lot of time.
And it's expensive, the bandages,
expensive,
everything is...
And the nurse, and it's going, for example, 2 or 3 times a week.
So this is where the funds for the charity go to.
Yeah.
The professional staff that do the visiting, and obviously training, and then also awareness Anna Maria was saying when we were talking with her from the charity that even having now someone to do the lobbying,
Yes.
because each individual province has to have the same recognition, acceptance and conditions.
Yeah, that's so important. And well, the achievement which we saw yesterday, for example, is last year we had the first National EB Day. We had around 60 participants, and yesterday was the second version, and we had up to 200 professionals. Also people who had been working in La Paz, but nothing to do with dermatology or nothing to do. They just were interested. They had seen the campaign, and they were there the whole day. So it shows that people are aware about EB and they feel attached and they feel touched by it, and they want to do something in any way. And so yeah, that was.
And you can all help directly here in Marbella if you want to. We have our charity tins all around the city at our show also. Plus you can do an event, birthday, wedding, anything. You don't need presents. Just get one of these tins.
Yes.
Give it to charity. Well done, you.
Thank you.
A lot of people prefer to take their own car when going out at night. However, when it comes to time to go home, that might not be the safest or wisest option. For some, just one glass of wine could put you over the legal limit, which means if you drive, you could put yourself or others at risk. If you find yourself in this dilemma and think possibly you should not be driving, you can just give Linea Directa a call. They will order and pay for a taxi, which will take you and your fellow companions who were with you in the car home with up to a 25-kilometer radius, as long as you all fit in that one taxi and you're all going to the same place. You can even ask for them to pick up your car and take that back too. And this is 7 days a week from midnight to 7 a.m. and up to 4 times a month. And this is obviously all in addition to the fabulous insurance that you get with Linea Directa.
Hello, I'm Oksana Mes from OWL. Welcome, and all Zero Heroes welcome here to enjoy our special treats, non-alcoholic mojito and homemade lemonade.
Welcome in Art Cafe, and of course we are honored to present Zero Hero.
Kempinski Hotel Bahia welcomes Zero Hero designated drivers.
The Hotel Guadalpín Banús welcomes all Zero Heroes. So here in our sports bar, we are Zero Hero partners, of course.
Zero Hero welcome at Hatame in Guadalpín Banús.
Zero Hero drivers are welcome in GK. Conductores de Zero Hero están bienvenidos en GK.
Most of you are not used to seeing me with a clipboard and notes because I like to wing it. But last week when Leslie was on the programme talking about funerals, we invited the public to send us questions, if you had any, about dying in Spain. Some people are dying to come to Spain, and some people actually do die here. And then what do you do? Well, Leslie worked in the industry, so to speak, for how many years? 15?
15, that's right, good
15
memory.
years, and although now is retired and dedicates to teaching the bagpipes and playing the bagpipes, I've actually come to answer some of your questions because he knows a lot. So Leslie, welcome back, thank you.
Thank you.
Been dying to see you again.
Oh.
We have to, I think the reason I can talk about the subject with you is because you are funny and you do take it all with a pinch of salt, very light-hearted.
Oh, thank you.
Has it been like that before you started working in funerals, or is that something you've adopted through the profession?
Well, I would say it was enhanced with the profession because most undertakers have a good sense of humor. And of course, I came in with, I think, a good sense of humor, although some people might disagree. But in my line of business, right, once I adopted it, I discovered that my colleagues had an even better sense of humor than I did. So they helped me improve.
And I thought he was an original, there you go. Okay, so how about we start with the questions?
I think that's a great
Okay,
idea.
I'm going to leave everything anonymous, as I said I would. First question, why funerals in Spain must be in 24 hours?
Right. I'm glad whoever asked that question was a good question, because that is actually a myth. In Spain, funerals do happen very, very quickly. And because they happen quickly, it may give the impression that they happen within 24 hours. The law, the legislation is, it cannot take place, the funeral itself, burial or cremation, until 24 hours have gone by. But you can have the actual religious service before that, right? So there's no need to do it before 24 hours. You cannot do it before 24 hours. But the other myth is that it has to be as soon as possible. No, it doesn't have to be. You can do it as late as you want. In other words, if you want to do it 2, 3 days, a week later, that is up to the family. Obviously, there's a cost factor involved, but it's up to the family, the next of kin, to decide when that will take place.
Okay, thank you. When someone passes away, who should one contact? Where does you start if you don't have a funeral plan?
Right. Most people will think, I have to call the police. And I advise against that thoroughly, because, or emphatically, because if you have any doubts, the best people to call are the emergency. Get an ambulance to come, and they will know where to go from there. They will even help you. If you don't have a funeral director, they will give you maybe 2 or 3 names, right? Some people will think, oh, they're getting some commission. They may, but most of them actually do it out of charity to help the family. They'll give you 2 or 3 names, or if necessary, if they deem it's necessary, then they will call the police, which makes it much more complicated. But if they call the police, it was necessary.
The Spanish funeral system, is it as complicated as it sounds, or it's just our ignorance and being foreign?
It's just a foreign factor. In other words, there are a lot of things that are different. Like, for example, in the UK, you would do the paperwork yourself, and here it's all done by the undertaker, which is probably much better because it's quicker. It relieves you from that added stress. But the systems are more similar than different. The point is that the differences are very noticeable, right? So, for example, you can't do it until 24 hours have gone by, but in the UK, because of the paperwork, it stretches out to a couple of weeks, but only because you're doing it yourself, right? So there are less differences than we believe.
Horror stories, are they true? Can be. It depends on the area, I suppose.
Yes and no. In other words, horrible things have happened and will always happen everywhere. The difference is, or what I would like to stress, is that those horror stories are precisely stories that happen so exceptionally that remain in our memory, but they don't happen all the time. Most undertakers, most people who are related to the industry, if we want to call it that, of people passing away, right, are really concerned for the families and for the person who passed away. So horror stories are just major accidents that, thank goodness, happen very, very rarely.
Okay, this is an interesting one. Someone wants to donate their body to science. So if you want to donate your body to science after the fact, what does one have to do?
Right. In Spain, and particularly in Andalusia, you cannot donate your body after the fact. Because there have been problems, if you wish your body to be donated, you have to donate it yourself before you die. And then the family or the next of kin or even the undertakers will receive a document stating this, so that when you pass away, the system enters into using that body for science.
So not like in the States, when you die, you ask the family members what can be done and all that kind of thing.
What the only thing that can be done at that moment is, which I think is another question further on, is donating your organs. That's completely different. You don't need to leave a document. You don't need to do anything about that. All you have to do is just let them know, and the family at the spur of the moment can tell the doctors, yes, we wish the organs to be donated. But going back to the donating your body to science, in some cases I've had clients and people who have asked me questions, I want to donate my body to science so that there's no problem. No. It might create more problems than solutions, because even though you've donated your body to science and they've accepted it, and when you pass away, at that moment, they actually decide if they'll accept it or not. So the family might
It
think,
doesn't get you out of funeral costs, for example.
not at all.
And people may think that donate your body. Okay, this is a question. I don't know, we've got many minutes left, but quickly, if you don't have a funeral plan, you're going to have to come back to talk about funeral plans
Yeah.
because there's just not enough time. But if you don't have a funeral plan, what happens?
Then the ambulance or the hospital or the doctor who does the death certificate will normally give you some names. But fortunately,
But say if you're dead and you have no family, and this is the question, if there's no family and you die,
right, okay.
what happened?
Then it would become what is called a judicial case, right? The body is taken to the judicial morgue. They'll have an autopsy to determine the cause of death, and then the body remains in custody for a number of years until somebody assumes responsibility. And if that doesn't happen, then it goes to a common grave. But after many years.
So it just gets frozen or just
It gets, yes, it is kept in cold storage, and that can be maybe 10, 15 years.
in like a lump sum kind of thing somewhere?
And
It
every
doesn't
now
sound
and
very
then,
dignified.
it's horrible. It
Okay.
really is horrible.
Okay, we'll leave it on that note. Can you come back and we'll talk about
I'd
it? Because
love
I've got a
to.
bunch of questions actually
Yeah.
about funeral plans and things. Okay, well, we've started some of your questions. Obviously, there is a lot more interest in death than one anticipated. As they say, the two things you can't get away from, death and taxes.
Right. And if you
Some
have
people in Marbella
well, and if you have a piper living close to your house, you can't get away from the
can't get away
noise.
from that either. Leslie, thank you very much.
Not at all. It's a pleasure.